Welcome. In today's video, we're going to rank all active 32 QBs in the NFL. The criteria that I used for this rankings is the quarterback's overall performance in 2017 and did they help or hurt their team. I will be using the quarterback that had the most success this season or saw the most playing time. So if you're Nick Foles, didn't make the cut, unfortunately. Maybe fortunately, depending on how bad you were. The first group of quarterbacks, we have the utter trash quarterbacks. These are just the worst of the worst, and there's not much more to be said about them. 32, we have the Sean Kaiser of the Cleveland Browns. The rookie who should have stayed at Notre Dame, but actually for us Notre Dame fans, probably better he left a year early. We would not have to suffer another year with him. Had a horrible rookie season this year. I mean, utter trash. Not really much to be excited about for him, but if you could get excited, maybe a new team brings him some success. I don't know. Hopefully for him. Don't like seeing people suffer, except for the Browns because they deserve it, because they're the Browns. 31, Mitchell Trubisky of the Chicago Bears. This quarterback who was way overhyped in last year's draft, coming from North Carolina. Had a lackluster rookie campaign this season. There is stuff to build on. Hopefully the Bears, after this tragic season, could get some support around Trubisky. And maybe a new head coach can better his path for the better, as they will be getting a new head coach in the 2018 season. Number 30, Brock Osweiler. I'm not going to waste my breath on this guy. He sucks. Jacoby Brissett of the Indianapolis Colts. Traded from the New England Patriots, had a decent first year playing under Chuck Pagano, but playing in the horrible AFC South, there were very, very high expectations because the South sucks and everyone's supposed to win. But like Trubisky, maybe a new head coach can bring him a little bit of success in the future. But to be honest, he'll probably just ride the bench behind Andrew Luck. That dude's amazing. Josh McCown. He could have very easily been 29 on this list, but he won the 28th spot mainly because he has to play the Patriots twice a year. And for the journeyman, it wasn't a bad season for McCown. Maybe it's something that possibly the Jets can build on and be decent again. Andy Dalton, the Bengals. I would say the Bengals season was a dumpster fire, but that would be way too nice for the Bengals. They, for some reason, signed back their coach. But anyways, that's off topic. For Andy Dalton, this would be a good year. I mean, 25 TDs, over 3,300 yards. But let's remember, he plays the Clowns twice a year. I mean, kudos for him. Screwed over the Ravens and got the Bills into the playoffs. 26, Eli Manning. This one hurt close to home. My boy Eli got benched at one point for Geno Smith. Let that sink in. Eli Manning got benched over Geno Smith. Wasn't the year the Giants wanted. Possibly could be the end of Eli and you. Okay, I'll have to say it. Odell Beckham was out most of the season. That's why he sucked. He'll be great again next year with Odell. Count on it. Jameis Winston, the Buccaneers. A year in which many of the experts in the league expected him to blossom into the star that he was at Florida State. Many people, including myself, saw a decline in his performance this year. Even though Winston battled through injuries most of this season, still expected him to actually have a decent year, but maybe there's next year, like I said last year. Kirk Cousins. Oh, man. It was his chance. This was a chance to show he was an elite quarterback in the NFL. But guess what? He had I said mediocre. It was probably between good and mediocre. But he possibly cost the Redskins a spot in the playoffs in the lackluster NFC East. But I don't know. Maybe the Broncos will give him a franchise tag. They're desperate. Or the Cardinals. Who knows? 23, Carson Palmer. For Carson Palmer, it wasn't that great of a year. Granted, he broke his arm in Week 7. I believe it was the game in which they went overseas to play in England. He broke his arm against the Saints. But unfortunately for Palmer, he decided to call it quits. Had a run to the Super Bowl against the Steelers and an NFC title game 2 years ago against the Panthers, but just could never really get that big win to prove he was a good quarterback. 22, Phillip Rivers. And absolutely, it wasn't that bad of a year, but because the Chargers got moved over to LA this year, which is horrible to say, Rivers were under a lot of scrutiny to get their Chargers to the playoffs, but otherwise, for the veteran, it was a pretty good year. 21, Jay Cutler. Another year for Jay Cutler. Another year that could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse. I mean, he beat the Falcons, beat the Patriots. That's all about all that was positive for Jay Cutler. Hopefully for us as fans, it's the last time we'll ever see him put on a jersey. I'm sorry. I actually like Jay Cutler as a quarterback, but it's not really that good. This group, they're the meh quarterbacks. That kind of are meh. Derek Carr. Derek Carr had everything lined up for him to win a Super Bowl. But Carr played way below his expectations. But wait for next year's video. He'll be in like the low 20s. Because they're going to try to have John Gruden coach this team. Yikes. Dak Prescott. Well, you see what it says. Once Zeke got suspended, it was a horrible run for the Cowboys. And essentially, Dak Prescott's underachieving play cost the Cowboys a spot in the playoffs. Don't at me. Marcus Mariota. Another one of these quarterbacks in their third year who really didn't live up to the hype. He would have been in the 20s, but he helped his team get to the playoffs. I mean, he caught his own touchdown pass. That deserves something. Alex Smith. The king of checkdowns made the playoffs. Well, only because everyone else in the AFC West sucks. But much like Dak Prescott, once Travis Kelce went down with the injury in the AFC playoff game, well, let's be honest. We saw what the Chiefs really were. Tyrod Taylor. Not really a great year for Tyrod. But the reason he's on the list, he got the Bills to the playoffs. Just enough said. Joe Flacco. Not a bad year for Flacco. Not a good season. Yes, he's not an elite quarterback. Also, they missed the playoffs, but that was probably just because of the curse of the Browns. Case Keenum. These numbers for any quarterback would be good, but for a third-string quarterback, they're absolutely fantastic. Maybe he'll return to earth, but Minnesota, give this man a contract. But let's all be honest. We know who the real king of Minnesota is. Deshaun Watson. What a rookie year. The rookie from the Clemson Tigers absolutely caught the world on fire. It's a shame that his season had to end early. He was one of the good guys. But trust me, in the next 2 to 3 years, he will win an MVP. Blake Bortles. From being a laughingstock of the NFL to starting the AFC title game, Blake Bortles has made major gains in his NFL career being a QB. I mean, he was helped by a Jacksonville defense and the rise of Leonard Fournette, but let it sink in. Blake Bortles is starting the AFC title game this weekend. It's really happening. Jared Goff. While the search goes on from the LAPD to find the real Jared Goff, the fake Jared Goff actually got the Rams to the 3 seed. While it was a great year for Goff, he still needs to prove himself in the playoffs to be considered an elite quarterback. Matthew Stafford. Another year, another depressing season for Matthew Stafford. I mean, he actually has a weakness as a quarterback. Hopefully, either by a trade, by the draft, or by luck, Stafford can prove himself as one of the best in the league. The elite class of quarterbacks. Matt Ryan. Pretty much what everyone expected after this year, after the Super Bowl. With the new OC, Steve Sarkisian, Ryan was able to get the Falcons within one drop of the NFC title game. One of the big shocks on this list, Aaron Rodgers at number 8. Even though Rodgers missed more than half the year, it was still a great season still put up great numbers, but also he still could have been a better year for Rodgers. Ben Roethlisberger. Another great year for Roethlisberger, which saw him making all the way back to the playoffs. But he's low on the list. He's still number 7. He had that 5-pick game against the Jags. Jimmy G. Whether you believe or not that Jimmy G was on purposely traded to the 49ers, it can't be understated that San Francisco has found their franchise quarterback. He lit up the NFL, going 5-0 as a starter this year, beating the Jags, the Rams, and Seahawks in that stretch. Possibly a future superstar and an MVP candidate. Cam Newton. Newton had a good year, but it wasn't like his 2015 MVP year. To be honest, his inconsistency this season really cost Cam a chance to have another Super Bowl run. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson carried his team this entire year almost to the playoffs. I mean, that joke of an offensive line, it's a shock to even have Wilson still being alive to this day. Another great year for Wilson, and possibly an MVP year. Drew Brees. If it was not for number 2 on this list, a clear-cut MVP candidate and possibly another MVP year. But still, 4,300 yards for Drew Brees. Another storied year for the quarterback from New Orleans, and he's just adding this Hall of Fame resume. Definitely a first ballot. Now for the biggest shock on this list, at number 2, Tom Brady. I was going to have him at number 1, but there was a decline in Brady's play this year. Now, granted, he still led the NFL in yards. He's going to win the MVP by default, but with the whole Garoppolo scandal and possibly being traded, I see Brady on his way out of the NFL. The reason why he was higher than Russell Wilson, though, because he does a lot better job of carrying his team than Russell Wilson. And well, by default, number 1, the real MVP of this league, Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. If it had not been for his injury, Carson Wentz would have been number 1 in the MVP voting this year. But depending on how he comes back from his injury, Wentz will definitely be a star in this league. And who knows how long Wentz will keep this up, because it does depend. An ACL injury is hard to come back from, but maybe Wentz can have success this year. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys again soon.